Welcome to Visual Books. Today, we are exploring Make Time, a powerful guide that promises to help us reclaim our most precious, and often elusive, resource, our time. In a world that feels like it's constantly demanding more from us, where our attention is fractured and our days feel packed yet unproductive, authors Knapp and Zeratsky offer a refreshing, practical antidote. They don't offer complex time management systems or tell you to become a productivity guru. Instead, they present a flexible framework, a choose-your-own adventure for your daily schedule, designed to help you focus on what truly matters and find more joy in your life. So, let's dive in and discover how we can truly make time. Lesson 1: Embrace the daily highlight. The core concept of this first lesson is deceptively simple: identify one thing each day that you want to be the absolute highlight. This isn't about cramming in more tasks, it's about intentionality. It's about choosing one thing that will make your day feel successful, fulfilling, or simply enjoyable. Think of it as the star of your personal show, the one event that shines above all others. Knapp and Zeratsky argue that by consciously selecting a highlight, you give your day a focal point, something to work towards, something to look forward to, and something to measure your success by. Without a highlight, days can blend together, feeling busy but ultimately empty. The key example they use is quite relatable. Imagine a day where you have a mountain of emails, endless meetings, and urgent requests. If you don't have a highlight, you might finish the day feeling exhausted but accomplish nothing truly meaningful. However, if your highlight was finish writing that important report, or have a meaningful conversation with my child, or even finally read a chapter of that book, then even amidst the chaos, you can feel a sense of purpose and accomplishment. The highlight acts as a lighthouse, guiding you through the fog of daily distractions. The actionable advice here is to start small. Before you go to bed the night before, or first thing in the morning, ask yourself, what is the one thing I want to accomplish today that would make it a great day? Write it down. It could be professional, personal, or even something fun. And then, crucially, make time for it. Protect that time. This is the foundation of making time, knowing what you want to make time for. Chapter 2: Tactically Choose Your Own Adventure. This chapter builds on the idea of intentionality and introduces the concept of a flexible framework for your day. The authors propose that instead of trying to meticulously plan every minute, you can adopt a choose-your-own-adventure approach. This means designing your day with intentionality, but with the flexibility to adapt. They present a model of a day well spent that consists of 3 key components: a highlight, buffer time, and flexible time. The core concept here is about structure, but not rigidity. A day well spent isn't about achieving an impossible level of productivity, but about feeling in control and engaged. The authors suggest that most people operate in one of 2 modes: distraction mode, where we're constantly bombarded by notifications and interruptions, or focus mode, where we're deeply engaged in what matters. The goal is to consciously shift into focus mode for your highlight and other important activities. A key example they offer is the idea of batching similar tasks. Instead of checking email every 10 minutes, you might designate specific times for email, say, once in the morning and once in the afternoon. This reduces context switching and saves mental energy. They also discuss the importance of flow states, those moments of deep immersion in an activity. By structuring your day to allow for these periods, you can achieve more meaningful work and experience greater satisfaction. The actionable advice in this chapter is to experiment with different structures. Try designating focus blocks in your calendar for your highlight or other important tasks. Experiment with distraction-free zones where you turn off notifications. They encourage you to think about your energy levels throughout the day and schedule tasks accordingly. For instance, do your most demanding work when you're most alert. It's about understanding your own rhythm and designing your day to support it, rather than fighting against it. Chapter 3: Master Your Enemies. This chapter is all about identifying and neutralizing the things that steal your time and attention, your denemies. These are the forces that pull you away from your highlight and from what truly matters. The authors break these enemies down into distinct categories, each with its own unique challenges and solutions. The core concept here is awareness. You can't fight what you don't see. By naming your enemies, you begin to gain control over them. The book identifies four main categories of enemies: the default, the novelty, the urgency, and the negativity. The default refers to the things we do without thinking, mindlessly scrolling social media, checking emails constantly, or succumbing to every incoming notification. The example here is your smartphone's notification settings. By default, your phone is designed to grab your attention. The actionable advice is to systematically disable notifications for all but the most essential apps. Turn off badges, banners, and sounds that aren't absolutely critical. The novelty is the allure of new things, new apps, new websites, new information. It's that constant craving for something fresh. An example is the endless stream of new content online. The advice is to be more selective. Create a later list for articles you want to read or videos you want to watch, and revisit it with intention, rather than letting novelty pull you off course. The urgency is the feeling that everything is a crisis and needs to be addressed immediately. This is often amplified by the constant flow of emails and instant messages. The example is the expectation of an immediate response to every message. The advice is to resist the urge to respond instantly. Set boundaries. Let people know when you're available and when you're not. Consider scheduling specific times for responding to communications. And finally, the negativity. This encompasses complaining, gossip, and unproductive rumination. The example is often found in workplace conversations or online forums. The advice is to consciously choose to focus on constructive solutions and positive interactions. When you catch yourself or others dwelling on the negative, steer the conversation towards action or a more optimistic outlook. By understanding these enemies, we can begin to build a more intentional relationship with our time. Chapter 4: Make your time your own. This chapter is where the rubber meets the road. It's about proactively creating space in your day for what matters. The authors emphasize that we don't just find a time, we have to make it. This involves actively designing your schedule and protecting your focus. The core concept is about reclaiming agency over your day. Instead of letting your calendar be dictated by external forces, you become the architect of your time. This chapter is packed with practical strategies for carving out dedicated time for your highlight and other important activities. A key concept is the idea of time camping. This means setting aside specific blocks of time for a particular activity, much like setting up camp in a designated area. You create boundaries around that time and protect it from interruptions. For example, if your highlight is writing, you might time camp for an hour each morning, during which you'll only write, and nothing else. Another important idea is time crafting. This involves deliberately designing your environment and your workflow to support your chosen activities. If you want to spend more time reading, you might create a cozy reading nook. If you want to focus on coding, you might set up your workspace to minimize distractions. The actionable advice is plentiful and empowering. They suggest scheduling your highlight first thing in the morning, before the demands of the day can interfere. Experiment with time boxing, allocating a fixed amount of time for a specific task. They also advocate for strategic downtime. This isn't about doing nothing, it's about allowing your mind to rest and recharge, which ultimately leads to greater creativity and productivity. This could involve short breaks, mindful moments, or even just looking out the window. By actively making time, you ensure that your days are spent on what truly energizes and fulfills you. Chapter 5: Find Flow. This chapter delves into the highly sought-after state of flow, those periods of complete immersion and effortless engagement in an activity. The authors explain how flow isn't just a pleasant experience, it's a powerful driver of productivity, creativity, and happiness. They offer practical ways to cultivate this state more consistently. The core concept is understanding the conditions that foster flow. The authors highlight that flow typically occurs when there's a balance between the challenge of the task and your skill level. If a task is too easy, you get bored. If it's too difficult, you get anxious. Flow happens in that sweet spot where you're stretched, but not overwhelmed. A key example they use is the experience of a musician improvising, an athlete in the zone, or a writer lost in their craft. In these moments, time seems to disappear, self-consciousness fades, and the activity itself becomes its own reward. The authors explain that flow requires clear goals, immediate feedback, and a sense of control. The actionable advice here is about structuring your activities to maximize the chances of experiencing flow. They recommend breaking down larger tasks into smaller, manageable steps with clear objectives. Seek out activities that provide immediate feedback on your progress. This could be visual progress bars in software, or the tangible results of a craft. Crucially, they advise minimizing distractions during these flow-seeking periods. This means turning off notifications, letting others know you're unavailable, and creating an environment conducive to deep concentration. By intentionally setting the stage for flow, you can unlock deeper levels of engagement and satisfaction in your work and your life. Chapter 6: Energize. This chapter shifts our focus from managing time to managing our energy, recognizing that our energy levels are intrinsically linked to our ability to be productive and engaged. The authors argue that we can't make time effectively if we're running on empty. This means prioritizing our physical and mental well-being. The core concept is that energy is a renewable resource, and we have the power to replenish and enhance it. They highlight that being tired or drained is a significant obstacle to making time for our priorities. This chapter offers practical, research-backed strategies for boosting your energy throughout the day. The key examples they provide include the power of micro-breaks, short, intentional breaks that can significantly improve focus and reduce fatigue. This isn't about long lunches, but rather quick moments to step away, stretch, or simply breathe. They also discuss the impact of sleep, hydration, and nutrition on our cognitive function and overall energy levels. For instance, even mild dehydration can lead to fatigue and decreased concentration. The actionable advice is to view these activities not as luxuries, but as essential components of a productive day. They encourage readers to schedule energy breaks throughout their day, just as they would schedule meetings. This could be a 5-minute walk outside, a few minutes of stretching, or simply closing your eyes and practicing deep breathing. They also emphasize the importance of consistent sleep patterns and mindful eating habits. By prioritizing your energy, you're not just taking care of yourself, you're building a stronger foundation for making time for what truly matters. Chapter 7: Reflect. This final chapter brings it all together with the crucial practice of reflection. The authors argue that to truly make time and to ensure our efforts are aligned with our goals, we need to regularly pause and evaluate. This isn't about dwelling on mistakes, but about learning, adapting, and reinforcing what works. The core concept is that without reflection, we risk repeating ineffective patterns and missing opportunities for growth. It's about creating a feedback loop for your time management strategy. By reflecting, you can identify what's working well, what's not, and what adjustments you need to make to your make time approach. A key example they offer is the idea of a daily recap or a weekly review. This could be as simple as spending a few minutes at the end of the day jotting down what went well, what could have gone better, and what you learned. Or, at the end of the week, taking a broader look at your highlights, your challenges, and your overall sense of fulfillment. The authors stress that this reflection should be framed with a sense of curiosity and self-compassion, not judgment. The actionable advice is to build reflection into your routine. Start with a simple daily check-in. Ask yourself, what was my highlight today? Did I achieve it? What got in the way? Then, expand to a weekly review. Look at your calendar, your notes, and your feelings from the past week. Celebrate your successes, identify areas for improvement, and adjust your strategy for the week ahead. By making reflection a regular practice, you ensure that your efforts to make time are not only effective but also sustainable and continually evolving, leading to a more meaningful and fulfilling life. And so, we come to the end of our journey through Make Time. What Jake Knapp and John Zeratsky have given us is not a rigid set of rules, but a powerful, adaptable toolkit. They've shown us that making time is an active, intentional process, and that by focusing on our highlights, mastering our enemies, cultivating flow, energizing ourselves, and reflecting on our progress, we can indeed reclaim our days and live with greater purpose and joy. Thank you for watching. If you found this summary helpful, please like this video, subscribe to Visual Books for more summaries, and share it with someone who would benefit.